All right, welcome Santa Clarita. You're listening to Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John. I'm John Rogers. Doug Sutton, once again, is absent. But don't fear, we will still go on with the show. We have a special guest host, Robert Patrick Lewis, our national correspondent, I think is what we called you now, foreign correspondent.
You can call me Doug if it makes you feel better.
No, no, I don't. I'm not sure you'd want to do that. So no, Doug is off fighting the good fight apparently.
Yeah, I got an update. I was texting him back and forth before I came to meet you, and he was saying, well, let's just say it's been a long day for him.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's a tough fight. We won't get into it. We'll probably talk to Doug when he gets back and have him break it down for us. I think that's only fair. And I don't want to aggravate anybody on the other side in the event that we could be perhaps making it worse. So, all right, so it's Robert Patrick Lewis. Okay, Robert Patrick Lewis, former Green Beret, Special Ops. How long were you in the military?
About 8 years altogether active, and then another 2 in IRR, so kind of sitting on the couch pretending I was a soldier still.
Yeah, I know the feeling sometimes. How did you decide to do this? I mean, how was it something you decided to do from the start?
Writing or the military?
No, the military.
I was originally the only guy in my family that wasn't going to go into the military. So I come from a very, very long line of military guys that, we've been in every war, and some, my grandpa was in everything from he was in World War II all the way up through fighting the Russians in Afghanistan.
Wow.
So he was in 33 years.
He couldn't get along with anybody.
Well, no, he was, he started as infantry, and I actually found his memoirs. I'm going to write another book based on his memoirs. He went with the 10th Mountain in the Italian invasion of World War II.
Wow.
And after that, he went to the ASA, Army Security Agency, so he was essentially a spy within the Army. And so he used to, travel all around the place. He was hunting down Nazi war criminals for a while, and doing a lot of Cold War stuff and some really, really crazy, amazing stuff. He was just in for a very, very long time. My dad was a Navy pilot. He was in for about a decade until I came around, then he got out. So everybody had been in the military. After my mom died when I was a kid, I went off the deep end. I got in some trouble. And so I ended up in military school. And that was my first taste of the military, actually, in my face. And so at the end of high school, when it came time to start putting out, the word, if you want to go to like the Naval Academy, West Point, something like that, you need to be sponsored by a politician, by a senator, I think. Or
it was a senator.
So we sat down at the dinner table. My dad went, "You're not going to go to the military." I went, "No, I'm not going to go to the military." And September 11th happened my sophomore year of college. And I went, "Oh, all right, I guess that's my sign."
That's your sign.
So I was in the recruiters the next week, and a month after I graduated college, I left for basic training, infantry basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. So that was it.
There you go. Did you? How did you get into the Green Berets? Was it something that you were slotted for when you started?
You got to, so you can request that, so the initial part is selection, and they have this saying in the Army, Halo school selection, all that stuff. The hardest part is just getting there, right? So you need to pass all these tests to actually get to selection. I just knew that was what I wanted to do. I chose to go the enlisted route instead of the officer route because officers, you don't really get a choice on what you do. They couldn't even guarantee me infantry, and I'm a knuckle dragger, they call it. I knew I wanted to fight. That's what I wanted to do. So I went enlisted. I found my way. I went to infantry basic training, went to airborne school, found my way to selection. And then once you make it through selection, you get to go.
All right. So you get out of the military. How'd you end up in California?
My ex-wife. That was when we got done. I was stationed in Germany and then Colorado. So I was in Colorado. I'd been a medic. I loved the medical thing. After my trip to Africa, I just loved the medical aspect, and I wanted to get out and go into medicine. So my last trip to Iraq, I applied to go to UCLA and do pre-med. I had a business degree before I went in, so I had to do all the science classes over.
That must have been fun.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing. I was in Colorado, and I could have gone to school in Colorado, but my ex was out here. She was an actress. She already had a lot of stuff going on. So it was either you leave everything you've been doing and come here to Colorado, or I leave nothing that I have in Colorado and come out there.
So tough call. Tough call. So, all right, so now you're an investment advisor, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And an author.
Yep.
How the switch?
To which one? How did I get both
how'd you get both of them going?
So the author thing, while I was in the military, my first boss, you sit down, you do all these counselings. So my initial counseling, I sat with my first team sergeant, and at the end of it, he said, you need to start a journal because there's going to be stuff here you're going to want to remember, and it's going to get very confusing very quickly. And it did. So I was just keeping notes the whole time.
Oh, wow.
When I got out and we found out we were pregnant with my son, my first child, I knew that at some point all the marbles would stop rolling around. And we had, I knew from all these other guys in my family that just didn't talk about the stuff they had done. I wanted to have a comprehensive story for my kids. And all the other guys on my team that had kids of their own. So I started turning that journal into a very more easy to digest, like a timeline,
Right.
you know. So and I started showing it to people, and the guys on my team were started saying this needs to be more than just us. This needs to be seen by other people, and so that's when it became a book.
Awesome! What a great idea! What a great idea! Now you're involved in a lot of charities too, right now. Isn't that true?
I'm a national spokesman for USA Cares, which is hands down my favorite veterans charity out there. They do emergency grants for soldiers and their families that are in serious financial need, and this is like, you know, husbands deployed and they're about to foreclose on the home and kick the wife and kids out.
Wow.
I've heard of them calling tow trucks that had the only car up on the tow truck to take it away, and that's their only means of transportation. I've heard of them calling them with a credit card number and getting it back. They do stuff like that. I'm going out to Texas for the Lone Survivor Foundation to be at Frog Fest in May at Crystal Beach in Texas. And there's a thing called the American Soldiers Network. I'm going to go and I'm emceeing one of their concerts in Colorado in August.
Oh,
so
wow.
Everything that I can. I teach that writing therapy course for combat veterans with PTSD at the West Los Angeles VA. Just anything that I can do to help, because I know from my own experience, when I got back from my last Iraq trip, I was rough, man.
Yeah,
and so
I can imagine.
Helping any way that I can help, I
imagine.
just like to.
All right. Well, see, we've got the breakdown. I got this timed out perfectly. I'm getting the board op break sign, and we're listening to the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John, our special guest Robert Patrick Lewis. And I know it's time to break, and I'm stalling a little bit. And you're listening to AM-1220 KHTS, Santa Clarita's hometown station. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, Santa Clarita, the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John, our special guest Robert Patrick Lewis. We're having an argument off the air about UFOs. There'll be a UFO show coming soon, Peter. Okay?
We might all disappear the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
The black helicopter comes together.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, so you wrote an article for the Gazette this week that I want to take issue with.
Yep.
And now that you're here and there's witnesses, so I won't mysteriously disappear myself. You wrote an article about the legalization of pot. So why don't I'll give you the floor. Tell everybody your position on that.
Okay, so first and foremost, everybody, my eyes are not bloodshot, and I don't smell like strange patchouli oil. So, that's it. I think people really get in their head that if anybody supports legalization of pot, they're just a stupid stone pothead, and that's it. And, there are a lot of other reasons if you go outside of purely that, right? You have that divisive issue where people talk about it culturally, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and they take it as a vice, and they forget about all the other things that go in with it. If you look at even as a vice, like how many people, if you look at straight statistics, right? I'm a marketing guy, I love numbers.
Right. Okay.
Look at DUI deaths versus stone drivers, right? Drivers that have been smoking pot who, they drive a little bit too slow, right?
So okay. All right. No, wait a minute. Now we get to interrupt because when you look at the numbers, did you know it's worse than cigarettes?
From
a health standpoint.
As far as tar goes.
As far as tar goes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So I'm a firm believer. I got a little upset when people were suing tobacco companies and winning, just because there's got to be a point where I'm a big boy and I understand the first time I puff on a cigarette, I cough my brains out. I think my body's telling me it's not good for me, right? So I don't care what it says on the thing. That's nature's way of telling me this is bad for you. Choose to go on ahead if you want. Same with drinking. You get too drunk in college and you throw up one night. That's your body telling you it's bad for you. Pot, same thing. You smoke it, you cough your brains out.
Okay.
Big boy, put your big boy hat on and go, okay, this might not be great for me.
So, all right, so from a fundamental standpoint, you're going to sit there and tell me that the government shouldn't regulate anything. We should self-regulate.
I'm a conservative libertarian, so that's, my stance
I just nailed it, didn't I?
Correct.
I just nailed that. All right, so it's difficult to argue with that if that's the underlying political basis for that. But I still think there's got to be some. I mean, you're in favor of traffic laws.
I can't say I'm in great favor of them. So I lived in Germany for a couple of years, and all the different statistics on how much traffic circles instead of traffic lights cut down on gas mileage and how many accidents they cut down on, things like that. So it depends. It all depends. The way that we currently have it, no. Especially here in Los Angeles where, it seems like police are more geared towards getting money out of the citizens than actually protecting citizens, and that's traffic laws become a big part of it. That's
as a conservative libertarian, you can't sit there and say is there any law that you agree with?
Yeah, there are certain things that are for safety. I believe we need, standing army, we need to defend ourselves. And we do. I'm not saying we shouldn't have police. We should have police, but they should protect and serve and not try and catch a speeding, I don't think that should be their fundamental
We won't
job.
get into the arguments about prostitution. That's a whole and the prostitution arguments, which I always thought were kind of weird. No,
that's the oldest industry in the United States.
Okay, but going back to the pot thing, I get it, but I still think that there's a reason why Schedule I narcotics are regulated.
Right.
There's public safety concerns. And I think, sometimes the government does need to sit in. I'm not saying we need to be in a nanny state and we can't have big gulps.
Right.
That was one of the stupidest things ever. But I also think that, you let this cat out of the bag for financial reasons. It's it's a windfall for Colorado.
Right.
But what are the long health ramifications?
Well, so if you want to know just how bad it is, look to other places that have done it. Look to Spain, who has completely legalized pretty much all drugs and has done great for them financially. They've had lower incidence of crime since because, pot's not a big deal, but you're talking about heroin, cocaine, things like that. Right. People are no longer... The stuff is made by the government. Same in Canada. The Canadian government actually manufactures heroin for people that come in and they're heroin addicts. So they get it for free. They know where it's made from, so it's not going to be something that's going to kill them, right? So they know it's clean, they know it's safe, they know they can use it. They're not out robbing little old ladies to pay for their heroin, right? They go to a government-owned clinic, and again, I'm anti-government, but I also support.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was picking up on that. I was going to go there.
I fully agree that I'm a hypocrite in certain situations.
Okay, all right.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Well, I think everybody has to be.
If it makes it safer, if it reduces crime, and it actually puts people set and setting in a good, safe environment for them to do it. Now, that's heavier stuff. Now, unfortunately, pot is at the Schedule 1, along with heroin and cocaine, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing. And, there's a lot of those conspiracy theories that say Randolph Hearst was the one that actually made it illegal because he was worried that hemp would challenge his paper empire for the newspapers and things like that. I don't know. I don't believe, there's this stuff coming out now saying that they're going to have hemp-controlled or hemp-powered cars and all this other stuff. I'm not, hey, you do whatever you want with that. I just think if a guy wants to smoke a joint every once in a while and pay taxes on it, just like a pack of cigarettes or a bottle of booze, more power to him.
All right. As long as the long-term health ramifications are disclosed, and people can make informed decisions. And that's where, as an attorney, I can go back to the tobacco industry and sit there and go, they deserve to be sued. You know why? Because they didn't disclose the long-term health ramifications that they knew.
Right.
So that's punishable.
And that's another thing about pot. As long as it's illegal and that tightly controlled, they can't really do great studies on it. They can't. There's a lot of, you look at High Times Magazine to get your information. That's just like looking at Soldier of Fortune to get your politics, right? You know where it's going to be.
The thing that gets me, though, is, and you threw this out too, the lower crime stats.
Yep.
Okay. Take a look at Amsterdam. They don't have lower crime stats.
So I've been to both. I've been to Amsterdam. Now, so Amsterdam, it's hard to take the pot argument and put it in there because there's so many other things there. If you go to the red light district, I felt dirty just walking down the street there because there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of weird aspects there. And again, crime because people that are addicted to this stuff, they need to get money. And so they're committing a lot of crimes. They're doing some shady stuff. But you go to the different areas in, Canada has had it legalized for a very long time. If you went to Toronto in certain areas, you go to coffee shops, no real issues there, right? Of course, there are certain areas where it's going to be really bad. But, and it's funny because in Amsterdam, a lot of the Hollanders themselves, the Dutch, they don't really smoke pot, right?
No.
They look down on the people that do. Yeah. It's tourists that come in there to do it. And so you've got that element that you're dealing with already.
But you did point out something very important. And I thought of all the states, I figured it would be probably California first.
Yeah, and we had it, and we had it. It could have been a landslide, but we had that lightning ball. We let it out, man.
All right. We'll talk about the lightning when we come back because I got questions on that too. There's all kinds of cool issues because I can finally call them to task because I have witnesses. So if I disappear, you know what's going on. All right, you're listening to Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John, our special guest Robert Patrick Lewis. We're on AM-1220 KHTS, and we'll be right back.